In this video, we'll demonstrate how to register as a user on the SentryMDU system. Registration is not required. You can remain anonymous user if you'd like, but in order to network with other users on the system, you need to become part of a security domain. And to become part of a security domain, you'll need a username and a password, which will set your security credentials. So in this section, we will cover the registration form. You'll need to have a login name and a password, contact information, a tracker name if you'd like, and some other information that will need to be entered into the form. So that's what we'll cover on this particular video. So let's start with your screen, and again, in this video we're going to use a tablet just because it's got more real estate. It's easier to see than a smaller phone, but of course it applies to the same thing. You can either do it on a smartphone or a tablet. The only difference on a tablet, you won't have to scroll as much because the screen is bigger. So let's open the SentryMDU. Now, up to now on this SentryMDU, we have simply downloaded and installed the software, and the next step is user registration. So if you saw the previous video, you would go to menu, and down on the bottom there's four choices: configuration, help, about, and exit. And we're going to select configuration, and it says you are using an anonymous access to the service. And because anonymous access, there are some features that are disabled. Do you want to create your own user? So our answer is yes, we want to create our own user. So you'll be presented with a form, and at the top of the form it will ask us to enter a new username. Now, we would suggest that you download the SentryMDU Quick Start Guide, because it will have a screen-by-screen description of exactly the steps you need to take, the format of a login name, characters you can use, those you can't use, quite a bit of details. But for now, we're just going to step through the process. So we're going to pick a new username. So we click on, we've already highlighted that box. And so I'm going to choose a name for this device. I'm going to call it Team Leader. So we put in login name Team Leader. We go to the next. Now we need to put a password in. So we're going to do a password here. And of course we'll change this password later, but for the purpose of this video, we enter a password and full username. It can be anything you want. Generally it would be your name, like Bob Jones or Susan Johnson. Or it can be a job category, and so that's why we're calling our username a team leader. So it's not an actual person's name; it's going to be a job function. So our full name is going to be team leader. So the next, we need to put an email address and a phone number if you'd like. So in the case of an email address, it needs to be a valid email. In the case of, we're going to use our own support email. So we put in support@digilumen.com, And then we are going to add a phone number. So in this case, we are going to do and the reason you would want to put a phone number in is because you can actually place calls from within the SentryMDU app. I just put in a make-believe phone number here, but it needs to be using the international format convention. But starts with a plus and has to be separated from your contact information, your email, by a comma. So you'll notice there's a support@digilumen.com, comma, plus, and then a phone number. And it can't use, intercompany or intercountry codes or city codes. It needs to follow the international format for phone numbers. So now we have finished that. We go next. And in the case of security domains, what I would suggest is you go to our Quick Start Guide or the user manual, and there's a whole subject on security domains. If you're a new user just registering, you would leave that field blank because it will assign you a default security domain that's based on your username. And it also, the next thing is a tracker name, and it will take the name you put for your username, in our case was Team Leader, and it just appends the word tracker to the end of it. And it says it's Team Leader Tracker will now be the name that would show as a GPS track. The private access checkbox should remain checked. That's so other people don't have access to you or your device because it's private access. If you uncheck that, then it essentially opens you up to the wild. There are no restrictions on others. So you need to leave that checked. Again, there's a full description and discussion of all of these data fields in the Quick Start Guide. And then finally, the geospace defaults to Digital Globe Maps. That's our satellite map provider, and you would leave that just as it is as the default. And then finally, you need to enter a code in to make sure you're a real person. So in our case, for the CAPTCHA code, it's 5797090, and we're done with that. And so now we have filled out everything on the new user registration form, and we will click register. So we are now registering a new user on the data server. So this will take just a moment. Contacts the data server, registers you as a new user. Will take a couple seconds. Okay, so now you will receive, if you're successful, you'll receive a dialog box that says a new user has been registered successfully. The name is Team Leader, gives you an ID name, ID number, and the program configuration now will be changed to use that user. But remember, you were an anonymous user. Now you're going to be using the name Team Leader. So we click OK. Now it asks, would you like to, do you have a user license, or would you like a user subscription? And we're going to say later. We don't need to do anything with that now. So this comes back to our map screen. We have now registered as a user. So, but we're not displayed on the screen yet, and so we're going to go to Objects, and you'll notice there's one item on the screen at the top of the page, and it says Team Leader Tracker. Remember, that was the name we picked for ourselves, and we're going to put a check mark in this box. So we put a check mark, and then let's go back to our map screen, and in just a moment there's where we're located. So now if we zoom in, and let's look at, notice that little red plus mark right in the middle of the screen. That little red plus mark is the center of the screen. So if we center over that and we zoom in, it'll take just a second to download all the map information and populate it. The user manual has a description of this mobile object marker, and the colors mean certain things. It means GPS is active, and some of these little blocks in here might be could be red or different colors. And so for now we're sitting in Bartlesville, Oklahoma, just north of Tulsa, right in the center of the United States, and this is an active, so this shows where our support office is located. Okay, so this shows where this particular device is located, and we can zoom in and out. So we have now registered this particular tablet on the SentryMDU system, and we have registered the user by the username Team Leader. Now there's quite a bit more configuration that needs to be done, and that will be covered in another video. But for now, we have shown you how to fill out the registration form of a new user to become registered on the system. And the next video, if you have not watched, has to do with configuration of your device to have a good user experience. So see you on the next video.